So in this video we will be discussing demand and supply for O-level economics. So demand first. So demand refers to both the willingness and the ability of customers to pay a given price to buy a good or a service. And the amount of good or service demanded at each price level is called the quantity demanded. So in general, the quantity demanded falls as price rises. So when price goes up, quantity demanded goes down, so D goes down, and in reverse, if price goes down, then quantity demanded goes up. This is an inverse relationship between the price and the good or service of a quantity demanded. This rule is known as the law of demand. So the demand curve, as you've probably seen, is like this. It's downwards. This is our price, and this is our quantity, right? Oh, there we go. So demand can either increase or decrease. So in a graph, we call that a shift in demand. So if demand is over here, the demand curve can either shift to the right or to the left. So if it shifts to the right, that would indicate an increase in demand, which is, so D1 would be, D1 is equal to increase, increase, and D2, which is over here, would be a decrease. So there are some determinants of demand. So determinants of demand. Determinants. So number one we have is income. So demand for a normal good will tend to rise as income rises. However, demand for inferior goods will tend to fall as income rises. So in income, you can talk about the inferior goods and normal goods. So number two, inferior and normal goods. All right, number two, we have substitutes. How many substitutes are there? This basically means if you have more substitutes, demand for product, substitutes and complements. Just quickly write complements and complements. And complements. So substitutes are goods or services that can be used instead of each other, such as Coca-Cola or Pepsi or tea and coffee. If the price of a product falls, then it is likely the demand for the substitute will also fall. So complements are products that are jointly demanded, just such as tennis balls and tennis rackets, or ice cream cones and ice cream. If the price of a product increases, then the demand for the complement is likely to fall. Number three, we have advertising. 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 So marketing messages are used to inform, remind, and persuade customers to buy a firm's products. Companies such as Coke, McDonald's, Apple, and Samsung spend hundreds of millions of dollars each year on their advertising budgets to increase the demand for their products. So advertising can influence a person's decision on whether they should buy a product or not. Then we have tastes, personal tastes, changes in fashion, and habits. So let's just write tastes. So changes in habits, fashion, and taste can affect the demand for all types of goods and services. Products that become fashionable, such as smartphones, enjoy an increase in demand, whereas those that become unfashionable, such as clothes from a different season, experience a fall in the demand, quantity demanded. And finally, we have government policies. Let's try govt policy. So, disposable income refers to the amount of income people have left to spend or save after taxes on their income has been deducted. Any change in the level of income tax rates and allowances are therefore likely to result in a change in the quantity demanded of goods and services demanded. So, yeah, basically, government policies can influence how much disposable income a person gets, which of course can also affect demand because the more income you have, the more likely you are to buy a product. So that was demand, explained as fast as possible. Now we have supply, which will also be explained as fast as possible. Supply is the ability and willingness of firms to provide goods and services at given price levels. So firms naturally will have more incentive to supply their products at higher prices. The higher the price, the greater the supply tends to be. So it's a direct relationship. When supply increases, price also increases. Supply decreases, price decreases. So the law of supply states that there is a positive relationship between price and the quantity supply. As the price increases, the quantity supply will also increase. Now, on a supply curve, this is price and this is quantity. This is what supply looks like. So demand looks like this, and supply goes upwards like this, the red line, and demand is like that. Alright, then the movements. So let's draw a curve again. P and Q. So let's draw our supply curve. Now, supply can shift either to the right or the left. We use the word shift. When it shifts to the right, S1 and S2. So S1 would be equal to an increase in supply, while S2 would be a decrease in supply. A change in the price of a good or service causes a movement along the supply curve. A price rise will cause an increase, which is an expansion in the quantity supplied of a product, while a price fall will cause a decrease, which is a contraction in the quantity supplied. Let's clear the canvas. Now the determinants for supply. So let's just write determinants. Determinants of supply. Right. Number one, costs of production. Costs of production. If the price of raw materials and the cost of other factors of production fall, then the supply curve will shift to the right, assuming all other things remain unchanged. There's an increase in supply at each price level as the costs of production fall and vice versa. And then we have taxes. Indirect taxes imposed on the supplier of a product add to the cost of production. Therefore, the imposition of taxes on a product reduces its supply, shifting the supply curve to the left. Then we have subsidies. Subsidies are a form of financial assistance from the government to help encourage output by reducing the cost of production of a firm. Subsidies are usually given to reduce the costs of supplying goods and services that are beneficial to society as a whole, such as education, training, and healthcare. Then we have technological programs. I'll just write tech programs, or not programs, sorry, progress. As technological advances are made, supply is likely to increase because it is easier to produce more and more. Then we have price of other products. I'll just write price of other products. Other products. Price acts as a signal to producers to move their resources to the provision of goods and services with greater levels of profit. For example, if the market price of corn falls while the price of rice increases, then farmers are likely to reduce their supply of corn and raise their supply of rice. Number 6, let's actually change the color. Let's use green. 6 is time. Time or expectations. Oh. Alright, time. The shorter the time period in question, the less time suppliers have to increase their output. So the lower their supply tends to be, over time, output can be increased. For example, it is not possible for a farmer to increase the supply of agricultural products in a short period of time. And then finally we have weather. Weather. The supply of certain goods and services can also depend on the weather. Agricultural output will clearly depend on whether suppliers have favorable or unfavorable weather conditions. Similarly, some service providers may also limit or close their operations during adverse weather conditions, thereby shifting the supply curve to the left. That was demand and supply explained as quickly as possible so that you can get a quick recap of what demand and supply is. Hope this video helped, and goodbye.